And welcome back. This is your man Warrior. This is another patron roster review, and this is KWS. Actually, that whole name is impossible for me to actually say. So he told me just use KnightWing because that's what it actually stands for, is KnightWing. So this is KnightWing. He's from Ewocalypse Elite. Ewocalypse is actually a guild we've dealt with in the past. They're a great guild, and they've got a lot of great players. So KnightWing is kind of on the border of a whale / large dolphin, and I've been playing for about a year. Now I know it looks like a definitive whale with his arena team, but when you look at the rest of his thing, you'll see he's a pretty big dolphin. But long story short, he wants to know about Arena and ships and maybe some next Zetas. And with Arena, he's running the Nightmare team, and the Nightmare team looks really good, and his Arena team for Fleet also looks really good. He's doing developing everything he should be developing and doing everything. But for Arena, he kind of wanted to know, like, to kind of, meta-proof his team. What are some, individuals that he should be kind of focused on, what ships that he should be focused on, and kind of some Zetas and stuff. So we're just going to kind of work through this whole situation and kind of see what's going on. So with Arena, you're looking really good. You've got the right team. You've got the right modding. Everything looks pretty decent. When we go into your inventory, I started to go through and look for characters such as Rex, because, Rex is really important. Hermit Yoda, Darth Nihilus, Darth Scion, Thrawn, BB-8, R2, CLS, Han Solo, like RJT, like any of the absolute top 10 best plug-and-play characters in the game you own. There was one character I thought was a little auspicious, and that's the Imperial Probe Droid at 5 stars, Gear 7. If you've not used him, then you probably don't understand or fully appreciate quite what he's capable of with his target lock and his self-destruct. But this is definitely one of those characters that's a plug-and-play character and works phenomenal for Territory Wars and Arena if you have a super hard team that you're having a hard time beating. The Imperial Probe Droid is kind of always the answer, especially when you're running Emperor Palpatine. You're able to basically use his ability on command. So the Imperial Probe Droid would be one I would take a look at for sure. I was kind of surprised to see your Boba Fett really basically undeveloped. You have him 7 stars. So that was another surprise with his ship and its abilities. It's really a great reinforcement ship now. It's kind of a plug and play reinforcement ship, could be used in any lineup with any capital ship. And so if you have the time, I would definitely invest in Boba Fett. Get his gear up, get some good mods on him, get his abilities up. He's definitely a character you're not going to regret, and you don't really have to do his Zeta, but it's not a bad Zeta at all. And I noticed your Infus Nest is about Gear 9, and you've got the abilities to 7, some good speed mods. And so Infus Nest, if you're going to do all of this work on her, get her to like Gear 11, 4-star Gear 11, and again, for 4-star, it means you spent the $10 on the pack for her. You might as well do her Zeta and finish her abilities off. She's really unusable unless you max her out. So get the gear up, try and max it out. I know a Gear 11 is the highest you can go, but put all pieces of Gear 11 in that you can, and then put her Omegas on and get her Zeta. Her Zeta allows her to hit whoever, whenever, and that is what really makes her overpowered. She will stack offense throughout the battle, and by the end of the battle, if they've ignored her, she's going to be one-shotting fools. I mean, I've got mine hitting for 40, 50K near the end of the battle. So she's wonderful, but early on, you want her to be able to target who you want to target for a control piece. So work on your Infus Nest as well. But other than that, the rest of your situation and setup looks really, really good. You got, a good couple of rows of Gear 12, and you've got all of the like main characters you should be focused on. So I know you said large dolphin, I'd say maybe small whale for the first year, but you're doing really well. There are a bunch of teams that you're kind of working on, and they're kind of like halfway here, halfway there. So we're going to talk about those 4 teams that you're kind of half and half, and you need to finish all of them. I'm going to go through and kind of prioritize these teams for you so that way you can finish them off in some semblance of normalcy. So the first is going to be Knight Sisters. You're really close to done. Talia looks great for the raids. Asajj looks great, double Zeta. Zombie is 5 stars. Don't need to go any higher other than the star rate, but gear no higher. But the stars, you got to get her 2 more stars. That's going to take a minute, but you definitely want to continue to hyper focus on farming for Zombie. And then Old Daka is good with stars. You just got to gear her up more. She's really important. You don't need her Zeta, but you got to get her at least gear 12 for her to really pull her weight, and focus on health mods for her. And then Mother Talzin, same thing. You're going to want to really trick her out. You want to make her as close to 240 speed. I know that's nearly impossible, but that's really a target goal. You've got her about 200, so if you could add at least another 20 speed to her, it's going to make a huge difference. Finish farming her to 7 stars and finish gearing her. You've got her kind of halfway, gear 9, almost popped over to gear 10, and I am sure that you're working on your Knight Sisters. I can see the development in here, but Old Daka, Mother Talzin, and Zombie, those are the 3 you really need to focus on, and finish Old Daka and Mother Talzin with their gearing and get the last star, Mother Talzin. And then the next team after this that I would actually run and finish is none other than the Imperial Troopers. Again, you're almost there. That the whole top row is amazing and overpowered and everything, and so all those characters up top are great. Stormtrooper, I wouldn't put any more energy into. 7-star gear 11 is sufficient for Stormtrooper, but all the others on the top row are really important. You have them all 7 stars. You have the right Zeta on General Veers, but you have them a couple of them at gear 9, and then a couple at gear 11. The Death Trooper and Shore Trooper you're going to use anyway for ships. You want to go ahead and finish taking them to gear 12. General Veers is your leader, so it just makes him and Stark more durable by going to gear 12. And Snow Trooper, again, more durable and more damage once he gets to gear 12. So I would focus on all of those. Don't worry about Range Trooper until he becomes farmable, but he is really, really good. If you think you might be switching from Snow Trooper over to Range Trooper in like 6 weeks, then don't do anything with Snow Trooper and just focus on Stark, Shore, Death, and Veers for now. And then you can always finish up this, but get them at least to gear 11, except for Shore and Death. Get both of Shore and Death to gear 12 for ships. The next after Imperial Troopers, because Knight Sisters and Imperial Troopers are both really close to being, considered done, would be Resistance. And the reason why I put Resistance behind those other 2 is because Resistance is even more done than those other 2. But there are some characters in here that are glaring not worked on, and those 2 are Finn and Poe. Very specifically, Finn and Poe are important for a couple of reasons. One, you really want to be able to build 2 Resistance or hybrid Resistance teams, one for offense, one for defense, and you don't really have that capability at this point with 5 of them under geared. So you've got 5 of them ready to go. You need to at least get Finn and Poe up, and Poe's got one of the best reinforcement ships in the game, if not the best. He's absolutely overpowered, and so you're not going to regret him. And him and Finn and Resistance pilot, you can use that kind of a hybrid team for territory wars to kind of go against Kylo Ren on masked teams. So definitely finish Finn and Poe at a minimum. Those 2 guys definitely should be finished with Resistance, but I think they're kind of less important right now than finishing your Knight Sisters and Imperial Troopers, because Knight Sisters and Imperial Troopers are going to help you in the Sith raid, which you're kind of looking to get, higher scores there. And so definitely you're going to want to focus on these guys third. And lastly, I would focus on First Order. Now, First Order is a really, really great team, but those other 3 teams are halfway or more completed. There's a lot of gear 11s, there's some gear 12s, and so a lot of those teams are it's kind of a snowball effect. You can finish one team and move to another team real fast, and then finish them off and move to another team real fast, and so the snowball gets bigger and bigger and bigger and faster and faster and faster, and then you hit First Order, and this is the one that's the least developed of the top 4 I think you need to work on. But First Order, no doubt, is one of the best territory war teams. Definitely takes a meta team to beat, and so I highly recommend that after you kind of shore up your Imperial troopers and your Knight Sisters and your Resistance, that you come over here and you really take some time to hyper focus on First Order. Now, as far as the look of which characters to run, there's a lot of thoughts of people go this way or that, but Kylo Ren Unmasked is really kind of a necessary. First Order TIE Pilot isn't, even though he's Gear 12, but he is Gear 12, so you may want to consider him in the group of 5. But both Kylo Rens, the original Kylo Ren and Unmasked, First Order Officer and First Order Executioner, those 4 are really kind of considered necessary. And then you can either do Stormtrooper or TIE Pilot, both of which have their own purposes, and you could actually have all 6 developed. But I wouldn't worry about Captain Phasma anymore, or the Special Forces TIE Fighter, because you've got too many places you're trying to go and too many characters you're trying to do right now. So once you focus on First Order, I would really recommend First Order Executioner as a focus, Stormtrooper, Officer, Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren Unmasked as the 5 that you should start to kind of chew on and get. So those are kind of some teams that you can kind of, focus on. And in this, you're going to create getting certain characters that you could use to kind of meta-proof your arena team as well. Like Kylo Ren Unmasked is just a great character. You can plug and play him in an arena team if you needed to down the road. But you have most of the good plug-and-play characters. And then remember, Imperial Probe Droid, I recommended as well. Now, we're going to move to Zetas because we're kind of on the idea of characters, and there's 3 Zetas I will recommend to you. The first is Hermit Yoda, Strength Flows from the Force. This is a absolutely amazing Zeta, and he is a plug-and-play character, no doubt, and you have him 7-star Gear 11 already, and so you're probably using him all over the place. This just makes every team he's in way more durable, and so I highly recommend this Zeta. This is one of 3 Zetas that I would recommend you possibly consider. Number 2 is none other than Mother Talzin Unique. That's right, you already have a leader for your Night Sisters, so I would do Plague Bearer. Gives her a ton of extra turn meter, makes her take a bunch of extra turns, which in turn is a bunch of extra damage. And since you're using this team, or going to be using this team in the Sith Raid, and this is the number 1 team that I recommended you kind of focus on was Night Sisters, this is going to be the, probably the most important Zeta of all the Zetas that you put on. You're only 1 star away. You got some gear to do, but Plague Bearer is definitely going to help you in this Night Sister team. And then the last one I've already mentioned once, which is Enfys Nest, 4-star gear, almost Gear 11, and you need to max the abilities out to include her ability on Fighting Instinct. This will basically add the ability for her to attack anybody she wants, regardless of taunt, and that is really overpowered in Arena especially. So you're doing really well in both arenas and in Fleet. We're going to talk just for a second about it. You've obviously, getting number 1 in Fleet, you're doing well. But I can't see your back lineup, and I kind of wanted to make a suggestion for some ships that you could put in your back lineup that you should kind of consider developing. So the first one we go into here that I see that you should be using in the back, and you're already doing really well, and I've already discussed this, you want to continue to develop both these crew members, because this ship in a backup lineup for what you're running in the front is really, really good still. I know a lot of people that say the TIE Reaper lost effectiveness, but not a whole lot, especially when you take the abilities back up to max. This TIE Reaper is going to be phenomenal. So way to keep going on this ship. The next is another ship that you kind of have developed. And again, you've got this ship pretty well developed, but the Scimitar as the first or second in is going to really create a lot of durability and extra offense for your team. It's always been a great reinforcement, and it still remains to be a great reinforcement. But there's 2 reinforcements I want to talk about. One is Poe. I already mentioned I think you should develop Poe. Obviously, the Resistance is someone you're going to focus on, probably 3rd in that group of 4 that I said to shore up. But Poe's ship is phenomenal. He can come in and under your lineup, he can actually get offense up. If he's the first reinforcement, he comes in, gets offense up, does his special ability, and instead of doing 80,000, it does like 120,000. It's absolutely insane. And so one of the hardest hitting ships in the game can one-shot basically any ship in the game. I would highly recommend you consider focusing on him because you're dominant in Arena and you want to maintain dominance. And to do that, you've got to really spread out your reinforcements and figure out ships that are going to make a huge change in your reinforcements. So look at Poe Dameron, both him being the crew member being maxed out and the ship. I would recommend that. There's one other, and that is Phantom 2. And this, in my opinion, is the absolute unequivocal best reinforcement ship on the planet. It is absolutely amazing. Not only can it do a double target lock, but if you max out Ezra's maximum impact, max it out, it does 80k, which is like Poe Dameron. So this is basically a target locking reinforcement that comes in that can target lock, it can do a Poe Dameron type hit. And as the reinforcement, if you max this out, covert strikeout, you will actually have the ability to bring in another reinforcement immediately on your next capital ship's turn because it reduces the reinforcement ability by 1. So when Phantom 2 comes in, the next turn that your capital ship takes a turn, you get to bring another ship in immediately. This floods the board with your ships and overwhelms the opponents. And if you're bringing in this ship and then Poe's ship, you're doing a Poe-sized hit with this ship and then immediately bringing in Poe to clean up and mop up. And between the two, it's absolutely amazing the amount of damage these can do and how fast you can get other ships. If you're not thinking about the Phantom 2, then there's an issue. I highly recommend everyone listening to the sound of my voice to max the Phantom 2 out. Now, the one downside to Phantom 2 is there's 3 characters, so there's multiple abilities. I mean, you've got literally 5 abilities to max out. You got 3 characters. That sucks. All of this about that sucks, but even not completely maxed out, this ship, for me, even without all the Zetas and all the Gear 12 pieces, the ship's still hitting for 80k and on this ability right here, the maximum impact. Still giving me my target locks with sights locked. And then I'm still under reinforcement getting the ability, which is the overpowered portion of getting the extra reinforcement immediately after the first ship. So you don't have to completely max everything out for this ship to be effective. Just remember that. All right, KnightWing, we've talked about Arena, kind of how to meta-proof with certain characters in certain factions, and really we kind of went more into the factions with Night Sisters and then Resistance and the Imperial Troopers, kind of finishing all those 3 off because you're so close to being done, and then worrying about your First Order at the end. Your Imperial Probe Droid can kind of be a side mission. As far as Zetas, your Hermit Yoda unique, Mother Talzin unique, and Nest unique are all 3 great uniques that you could focus on, with Mother Talzin probably being one of the first you should look at. And with ships, you're looking really good, but think about Poe Dameron and his X-Wing and also the Phantom 2, and think about bringing them into your lineup. I think it's going to give you another level of dominance in Arena. And if you have any other questions, you know where to find me on Discord. As always, keep your gaming on. Warrior out.